Well, good morning and welcome back to the channel. If you remember my last vlog, I was down here in Challock at Kingswood and the weather didn't play ball at all. Well, it's what, 10, 11 days later. I got another day off. I've been on earlies this week, so to get up another day early wasn't really much of an effort. The alarm was 3:40 this morning, a quick cup of coffee and made my way down here to Kingswood. Now, it got quite light quite quickly, even before official sunrise. It was quite light, but I've got here in the woods and the bluebells seem to be out in force now. There's not a lot of light coming through at the moment. Again, I was hoping for this light to come through this gap that's in the woodland, but it's not yet coming through. Now, whether or not the sun hasn't risen quite enough, but we're going to be here for a little while and hopefully another image or two. Well, as you can see now, we're starting to get some of this sunlight. The sun has risen just above a little copse of trees, just enough now to start shining into this bit of woodland, which I have been looking for the last 2 or 3 occasions that I've come up here. And today we've struck lucky. We have got some beautiful light streaming in across the top of the bluebells here and side lighting some of the trees. This next composition, I am at ISO 200 just to try and keep the shutter time relatively low, although it is still 0.5 seconds at f11 on the 24-105 at more or less 105mm, I think. In the woodland, I have learnt that the longer focal lengths seem to work really well, and I may try and switch that out for the 70-200 soon and see if we can pick out some more compositions in this light. I'm going to run around now trying to find a couple of more compositions while we still got this light, so forgive me if there's not a lot of B-roll at the moment. I'm going to concentrate on trying to get a couple more images, and if I get any, I'll put them up on the screen as well for you, and if I get time I'll come back and talk you through the compositions. But yeah, this sun's rising quite quickly. Okay, for this next shot, I am using the 70-200 at 200mm. I'm at ISO 100, f8, and it's giving me a shutter time of 1/6 of a second. And I believe that is, yeah, it's just about a stop and a half underexposed, just to try and control the highlights, which are on the top of the bluebells here, where the light is now coming in from the side lighting the trees and just casting this lovely light on top of the bluebells. So hopefully this one's turned out all right, and I'll put that up on the screen for you now. Well, I have been shooting images this morning rather than concentrating on the B-roll, so apologies for the lack of B-roll, but the sun has been rising really quickly this morning. It has shone through this gap in the woodland that I've been talking about for a week or two, and at the moment I've got this image set up where there's quite a dominant tree that I've put centre of the frame. The trunk of the tree is predominantly in shadow, but because I'm shooting more or less directly into the sun, the tree itself is backlit and casting some lovely light sweeping across the top of the bluebells there, and the shafts of light coming through the rest of the woodland floor, and you are getting a few I don't know, bits of leaves or something of that nature every now and again falls through the scene. I'm not sure whether I've managed to capture any of that, but I'm on the 70 to 200, more or less at 200 millimeters. I'm at ISO 400 f11 for 1/40th of a second. I'm trying to keep the ISO a little bit higher just to try and get a slightly faster shutter speed, because there is a bit of breeze around this morning, and I'm taking multiple shots, hoping that one of them is acceptably sharp. There's going to be a little bit of movement because yeah, it is a little bit breezy this morning, and starting to feel it on the old hands this morning. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so fresh, but it is almost springtime in the UK. What do you expect? Well, it's getting on time-wise now. It's literally 8 o'clock in the morning, so I've been here for 2.5 hours. I got some images that I'm quite pleased with and quite keen to get back on the computer with and see what I can do in post-processing. Now the light is getting a little bit harsher now. The sun's getting quite high in the sky and is much more coming from above. So I thought what I'd do is just try a little bit of ICM. So I've got this shot set up with just some trees which take up 2/3 of the frame, and then a little sliver of bluebells in the bottom there. And all I'm doing is I have set it to get a fairly long exposure. I'm on ISO 50 f16, and it's given me a shutter speed of 0.4 seconds. Now what I do is I come down to show more of the bluebells and press the shutter button. I'm on 2-second timer. When it gets to a second, I start turning my geared head in the vertical orientation, just so you get a nice straight pan up, and it gives you these nice lines of the trees and the bluebells coming up. It's quite subjective. Some people like it, some don't. I got one or two here that I've been playing around with that I'm quite happy with. So I'll have a look when I get home, pick the best one, and I'll put that up on the screen for you now. So what I'm doing now is I've tried a little bit of ICM, and on this occasion I've actually thrown in my macro tubes when I came up this morning, and now I am trying to do a little bit of close-up macro. It's not really macro photography because it's not really a true macro lens, hence the tubes. The tubes allow you to get a lot closer to your subject and still be able to focus. These tubes are made by Viltrox. They are a set of 3. They're all different sizes. You can use them in any combination, and they do have the electric pass-through, so they do also autofocus as well. And with the geared head, it makes it a lot easier than a ball head trying to frame up your subject and get focus. The challenge I've got at the moment is the breeze. Now, it's not gal force or anything, but because they're quite a delicate flower, the slightest breeze is making them move. So I'm trying to shoot multiple images at the hope that at least 1 or 2 of them will come out sharp. I've got the 24-105 on. I'm using 1 macro tube, extension tube, which is the biggest tube. Allows me to get in and frame up this top of the bluebell quite nicely. So you've got the top of the stem that curves over, and a few of the bluebells on the stem itself. Now, because it's on the extension tubes, you get a really shallow depth of field, so the background is blurring out quite nicely. I'm at ISO 800 to give me a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second at f8. The wind has dropped now, so they're not moving at all, them flowers. So hopefully that'll come out and I'll put it up on the screen for you now. Well, I think we've had the best of the light now this morning. I've been here since about 5:30 in the woodland. Time now is 9:20, so I've been here a considerable amount of time. Most of that time has been looking for compositions, as beautiful as it's been, and I was lucky and got the conditions that I was after, with clear sky and sunrise. The sun did come through that gap in the woodland there and created some lovely light casting across the top of the bluebells and side lighting the trees. And I'm hoping that I've got 1 or 2 images that kind of do it justice. A little bit of mist would be nice. You know, photographers, we want it all. But yeah, I've had a good time this morning. I've enjoyed it. I've done some photography, some intentional camera movement, and even a couple of macro shots using the extension tubes with the 24-105 lens. Also used the 70-200, which kind of allowed you to be a little bit further away from the bluebells but still get in quite nice and tight. So yeah, I'm hoping 1 or 2 of them have come out sharp enough. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've not seen a single soul here this morning. I've been on my own since 5:30 in this section of the wood. It's been lovely. The smell of the bluebells is something else this year. I don't know whether it's more than usual or just for some reason I've noticed it more this year, but it's lovely. It's beautiful out here. I've seen lots of images online this year, and sadly I've seen quite a few images where people have taken their kids, their pets into the woodland, and obviously wanting to get photographs of them amongst the bluebells. Now, I understand the reasons why they would want to do that, but I've seen many images where they've clearly trampled upon the bluebells to get to a location just to be surrounded by them. Now, I don't know if those people are aware, but quite a lot of damage can be done to bluebells. They're a delicate flower, and I don't know, the tubulars or that they grow from can sustain quite a lot of damage if they're trampled on, and apparently struggle to produce energy to reproduce flowers for the following season. So you know, if there's enough footfall over a certain area, you run the risk of killing them bluebells off, and quite possibly permanently. And the last thing we want to do is to you know, ruin the woodland for everybody else. I'm sure nobody does it intentionally, but you know, I just urge people, if they're going to come down, and I urge them to come down, it's beautiful. Come down and have a look at the woodlands with the bluebells, get some images for yourselves. It's just a lovely location. But please, as much as possible, stick to the footpaths and the little tracks that run through, and you know, let's hope we can keep it for generations to come. Anyway, rant over. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and one or two of the images. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you're not already, consider subscribing. Thanks again. Till next time, take care. Cheers, then.